Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. My name is Bilal Abdul Kareem for OGN. Today, we're going to discuss the 21-point peace plan that Donald Trump has put forward. Let's get started so that you can understand exactly what this peace plan is and what it is not. Okay, let's get started. Let's start with number one. Now, I'm going to establish a premise here, and I'm going to come right out and tell you what my conclusion is, and you can decide whether or not it's backed up by the facts on the ground. And that is, this peace plan is not designed for Hamas to accept. I will say this again. This peace plan is not designed for Hamas to accept. Now, let's try to figure out if that's real or not. Let's start with the first one. One, Gaza will be a de radicalized, terror free zone that does not pose a threat to its neighbors. Firstly, if you're sending a peace proposal to someone and you're starting off by saying that your zone needs to be de radicalized, so it's a terror free zone, by you agreeing to that, you're saying by default that I am a terrorist and I need for you, white people, I'm just coming right out and I'm going to tell it to you, that I need for some white people to come in and to de radicalize me because even I recognize that I have a problem. That's a non starter. And that's got to tell you from the start that this is not a serious peace proposal. Okay? This is the first thing. Second thing, number two, Gaza will be redeveloped for the benefit of the people of Gaza who have suffered more than enough. Okay, questions got to go out here. Gaza will be redeveloped for the benefit of the people of Gaza. Who is going to decide what is in the best interest of Gaza? That's a major question, and it's not addressed here. But we'll talk about it a little bit later on. Let's continue. It's very important, brothers and sisters, to see the way that these peace proposals work. Three, if both sides agree to this proposal, the war will immediately end. Israeli forces will withdraw to the agreed upon line to prepare for a hostage release. During this time, all military operations will cease. Including aerial and artillery bombardment, will be suspended and battle lines will remain frozen until conditions are met for the complete staged withdrawal. Key words here, brothers and sisters, and battle lines will remain frozen. Remain frozen does not mean that Israeli troops will withdraw. It means that Israeli troops will stay where they are. No withdrawal until conditions are met for complete staged withdrawal. What conditions? You see, this is just another document of the Palestinians have obligations and the Israelis dictate what they have to do. Okay, all right, until conditions are met for complete staged withdrawal. So this is the same Israel who said that they were going to pull out of southern Lebanon and stage a ceasefire with the group known as Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, and it never happened. So, without any type of concrete step when that's going to take place, they know and understand that Hamas is not going to accept some vague type of when conditions are met. Let's continue here. Look, number four. Within 72 hours of Israel publicly accepting this agreement, all hostages, alive and deceased, will be returned. Now, that's what Israel will have to do. What will they give the Palestinians? Let's take a look. Okay. Once all hostages are released, Israel will release 250 life sentence prisoners plus 1,700 Gazans who were detained after October 7, 2023, including all women and children detained in that context. For every Israeli hostage whose remains are released, Israel will release the remains of 15 deceased Gazans. Okay, fair enough, but there's a problem here. Let's go back to this right here. Israel will release 250 life sentence prisoners plus 1,700 Gazans who were detained after October 7th, 2023. Now, this is what the Israelis do with every intifada. They go on a spree of mass arrests because they understand that when they do negotiate, some people look and say, wow, 1,700 Gazans, that's a lot. But it really isn't, because most of those 1,700 Gazans are held under what's called administrative detention. They haven't been charged with a crime. They were kidnapped. And therefore, the Israelis hold the prisoners under administrative detention. For every 6 months, it can be renewed by the courts indefinitely. There are some Palestinians who've been under administrative detention, no trial, no judicial process for 8 years. Brothers and sisters, I'm saying here is that the 1,700 Gazans to be released, don't be fooled by this number. They only rounded up all of these people so that they could pad the numbers when it was time to negotiate. It's an old tactic. It's not even new. Next. 6. Once all hostages are returned, Hamas members who commit to peaceful coexistence and to decommission their weapons will be given amnesty. Members of Hamas who wish to leave Gaza will be provided safe passage to their receiving countries. Okay, first issue, let's look at this. Okay, Hamas members who commit to peaceful coexistence and to decommission their weapons. First of all, under international law, which just doesn't apply anymore, but it kind of makes me happy just to say it. Under international law, those who are resisting occupation have the right to bear arms. But if there was international law, we wouldn't have arrived at the point that we're at right now. Let's continue. Okay, who to decommission their weapons will be given amnesty. Would you trust Israel's amnesty? I wouldn't. Just like I wouldn't trust Bashar al-Assad's amnesty. Members of Hamas who wish to leave Gaza will be provided safe passage to receiving countries. First of all, I wouldn't believe that, but even if you did believe it, okay, wait a minute. Hamas members who commit to peaceful coexistence. What does that mean? That means Hamas members who surrender. That's what they've been saying from the start. If you lay down your arms and you surrender. And that's exactly what this is. So it would be tantamount to Hamas members who've been fighting against the Israelis to lay down their arms and turn themselves over to the Israelis, because for whatever process is going to take place, they're going to pass through Israeli detention centers first. And that's what's being requested of them. 7. Upon acceptance of this agreement, full aid will be immediately sent into the Gaza Strip. At a minimum, aid quantities will be consistent with what was included in the January 19th, 2025 agreement regarding humanitarian aid, including rehabilitation of infrastructure, rehabilitation of hospitals and bakeries, and entry of necessary equipment to remove rubble and open roads. That sounds nice if it's followed through, but it hasn't been followed through. So far, that January 19th, 2025 agreement was torn up by the Israelis, and the Americans did nothing. 8. Entry of distribution aid in the Gaza Strip will proceed without interference from the two parties through the United Nations and its agencies, and the Red Crescent, in addition to other international institutions not associated in any manner with either party. Opening the Rafah crossing in both directions will be subject to the same mechanism implemented under the January 19, 2025 agreement. Again, we're back to that. Okay, let's continue. 9. This is the main part, brothers and sisters. If you have anything important you have to do, delay it for the next couple of minutes. This is the most important part. Look, 9. Gaza will be governed under the temporary transitional governance of a technocratic, apolitical Palestinian committee responsible for delivering the day-to-day running of public services and municipalities for the people of Gaza. Stay with me here, brothers and sisters. This committee will be made up of qualified Palestinians and international experts with oversight and supervision by a new international transitional body, the Board of Peace, which will be headed and chaired by President Donald J. Trump, with other members and heads of state to be announced, including former Prime Minister Tony Blair. Now, there's more to number 9. We're going to talk about it in a second. Let's dissect this first. That Gaza will be governed under the temporary transitional governance of a technocratic, apolitical Palestinian committee responsible for delivering the day-to-day running of public services and municipalities for the people of Gaza. They will be the foot soldiers. This is what this is saying, that the Palestinians will be the foot soldiers. This committee will be made up of qualified Palestinians and international experts with oversight and supervision by a new international transitional body, the Board of Peace, which will be headed and chaired by President Donald J. Trump. This is the same President Donald J. Trump who has been bankrolling and arming the genocide and protecting politically the genociders. How can we trust in any way, shape, form, or fashion? That's any way, shape, form, or fashion that President Donald Trump, he automatically becomes the leader of Gaza. And Gazans would live underneath the genocider. But what happens with this agreement is that you formalize and actually give what's called in Arabic masdaqiya, which is legitimization of the occupation. Because as long as Donald J. Trump is heading the Board of Peace, which is over the Palestinians who do the day-to-day delivery of services, then it all goes back to Donald Trump. And he's the main genocider, even more than Netanyahu. Netanyahu cannot operate without American arms, cash, and political cover. So, and the Israelis know, Hamas knows this, okay? And it says here, and heads of state to be announced, including former Prime Minister Tony Blair. Tony Blair should be in The Hague for war crimes for that debacle in which he participated with former President George Bush in Iraq. And the entire Middle East knows and understands that. It continues. This body will set the framework and handle the funding for the redevelopment of Gaza until such time as the Palestinian Authority has completed its reform program as outlined in various proposals. Okay, including President Trump's peace plan in 2020 and the Saudi-French proposal, and can securely and effectively take back control of Gaza. This body will call on best international standards to create modern and efficient governance that serves the people of Gaza and is conducive to attracting investment. Whoa, we got two problematic issues with this statement. The first thing here is that the Palestinian Authority has to complete its reform program. Who's going to decide who is a reformist and who isn't a reformist on the Palestinian Authority group? The Israelis. So they're going to put Israeli, Tel Aviv-friendly people on the Palestinian Authority reform group, because we're not even talking about the existing Palestinian Authority, which is Tel Aviv-friendly anyway, but they want it to be even more. So this is the first problematic issue. The second problematic issue is serves the people of Gaza and is conducive to attracting investment. Big problem. This is one of the main problems, because as long as President Donald Trump is running the show, the person who is ultra Israeli friendly, now if he's going to be directing investment, that means who invests and who doesn't. who can buy and who can't. What they'll do is clear out major areas of Gaza, put the Palestinians in camps in squalor, and they will gather the Israeli businessmen and then say, look, you guys are going to be developing Gaza and you will own it. And you will own it. So, in other words, those investors are going to own Gaza, not the Palestinians. Because even if a Muslim investor wanted to invest and buy up the land, it would be up to Donald J. Trump, the main genocider, to decide to say, you can invest and it's yours. You can invest, it's not yours. So this is one of the most dangerous clauses in this entire agreement because it reeks of Israelis buying up Gaza, and then they could just say, look, we bought this land. It's ours. Next. 10. A Trump economic development plan to rebuild and energize Gaza will be created by convening a panel of experts who have helped birth some of the thriving modern miracle cities in the Middle East. Many thoughtful investment proposals and exciting development ideas have been crafted by well-meaning international groups and will be considered to synthesize the security and governance frameworks to attract and facilitate these investments that will create jobs, opportunity, and hope for future Gaza. None of this has anything to do with Gazans. Gazans are excluded from this whole economic development thing. Donald Trump is running it as he states here, written on paper, and Palestinians will basically be excluded from it. Now, it's talking about well-meaning international groups and considered to synthesize the security and governance frameworks and to attract and facilitate these investments. Again, we're back to investments that only Donald J. Trump will be able to decide who can and can't invest. 11, a special economic zone will be established with preferred tariff and access rates to be negotiated with participating countries. That's just wonderful. It's going to be his territory anyway, so he can decide what tariffs he wants to charge himself as the President of the United States. 12, no one will be forced to leave Gaza. Oh, well, we kind of destroyed it, so, you're not forced to leave if you want to live in a moon crater. I continue. And those who wish to leave will be free to do so and free to return. We will encourage people to stay and offer them the opportunity to build a better Gaza. 13. Hamas and other factions agree to not have any role in the governance of Gaza directly, indirectly, or in any form. All military terror and offensive infrastructure, including tunnels and weapon production facilities, will be destroyed and not rebuilt. There will be a process of demilitarization of Gaza under the supervision of independent monitors, which will include placing weapons permanently beyond use through an agreed process of decommissioning and supported by an internationally funded buyback and reintegration program, all verified by the independent monitors. New Gaza will be fully committed to building a prosperous economy and to peaceful coexistence with neighbors. Peaceful coexistence with the neighbors who are not peaceful with them. That's the real situation, brothers and sisters. Now, as you can see here, what this is a surrender document. This is not a peace proposal. It's a surrender document. And they know full well Hamas cannot accept this. They would basically be handing all of themselves and the entire population of Palestinians over to the Israelis, but more so, instead of being able to fight back and to have the support, the growing support around the world, they would basically legitimize the occupation and the giving up of their territory. 14, a guarantee will be provided by regional partners to ensure that Hamas and the factions comply with their obligations, and that New Gaza poses no threat to its neighbors or its people. Notice something here. It says a guarantee will be provided by regional partners to ensure that Hamas, not Israel. Israel doesn't appear here. If it's a straight document, it would say provided by regional partners to ensure that Hamas and Israel and the factions comply with their obligations. It only says that Hamas would act in good faith. But also keep another thing in mind: the Israelis scuttled the January 19th deal, and international bodies all are in agreement that Hamas stuck to the agreement and the Israelis did not. So. And that New Gaza poses no threat to its neighbors or its people. 15. The United States will work with Arab and international partners to develop a temporary international stabilization force, big issue here, brothers and sisters, to immediately deploy in Gaza. The ISF will train and provide support vetted Palestinian police forces in Gaza, and will consult with Jordan and Egypt, who have extensive experience in this field. This is the same Egypt and Jordan that stood there and kept their borders closed, didn't help militarily while a famine took place in the Palestinian territories, and they're supposed to be trusted with vetting a Palestinian police force. This force will be the long-term internal security solution. The ISF will work with Israel and Egypt to help secure border areas along with newly trained Palestinian police forces. In other words, this Palestinian police force will work for Israel, and they will be looked at as occupiers. It is critical to prevent munitions from entering Gaza and to facilitate the rapid and secure flow of goods to rebuild and revitalize Gaza. A deconfliction mechanism will be agreed upon by the parties. 16. Israel will not occupy or annex Gaza. Of course, you don't have to occupy it or annex it when you buy it, because as long as Trump is the one who's going to decide who can and cannot invest and where and how, everybody must understand that, of course, all of the investors are going to be Israelis, and therefore they would have legitimized their theft of the land. So by them saying Israel will not occupy or annex Gaza, you don't have to, because you're going to buy it. At whatever price the main genocider, your partner, decides is going to be the price, which ain't going to be that much. As the ISF establishes control and stability, the Israeli Defense Forces will withdraw based on standard milestones. What are these milestones? We don't know. What's the timetable? We don't know. Ask the Lebanese about Israeli timetables. They're still in southern Lebanon, even months after they were supposed to have pulled out. Okay, milestones and the time frames linked to demilitarization that will be agreed upon between the IDF, ISF, the guarantors, and the United States, with the objective of a secure Gaza that no longer poses a threat to Israel, Egypt, or its citizens. Practically, the IDF will progressively hand over the Gaza territory it occupies to the ISF according to an agreement they will make with the transitional authority until they are withdrawn completely from Gaza, save for a security perimeter presence that will remain until Gaza is properly secure from any resurgent terror threat. That means that the siege around Gaza will remain indefinitely, as it says right here, until they are withdrawn completely from Gaza, save for a security perimeter. That's a siege, brothers and sisters. This is not a peace proposal. It is a surrender, your surrender marching papers. Next, in the event Hamas delays or rejects this proposal, the above, including the scaled-up aid operation, will proceed in the terror-free areas handed over from the IDF to the ISF. Again, this is this is a surrender agreement. 18, an interfaith dialogue process will be established based on the values of tolerance and peaceful coexistence to try to change mindsets and narratives of Palestinians and Israelis by emphasizing the benefits that can be derived from peace. Okay, now, what happens when these new Board of Peace or Peace Board members decide Islam is not a peaceful enough religion to the Jewish Israelis, so therefore we won't allow any more teaching of Islam? They could do that under this agreement. They would be allowed to do that. An interfaith dialogue process will be established based on the values of tolerance. Anybody could come up and say, yeah, well, you know what? Islam doesn't look like it really tolerates shirk. Islam doesn't tolerate people who want to come back to their ancestral land. So therefore, there'll be no more Islamic teaching, because they understand that the main threat to their hegemony is Islam. Be careful of this particular one. Next, while Gaza redevelopment advances and when the PA reform program is faithfully carried out, whenever that is, however that's going to look is not clear, the conditions may be finally in place for a credible pathway to Palestinian self-determination and statehood, which we recognize as the aspiration of the Palestinian people. Wait a minute, Benjamin Netanyahu and the others all have been saying there's not going to be a two-state solution. What's going on? 20, the United States will establish a dialogue between Israel and the Palestinians to agree on a political horizon for peaceful and prosperous coexistence. When you sign this agreement, you're not going to sit down and have any discussions about anything, because you would have already surrendered. They'll tell you what you're going to be doing. You'll be on the left, you'll be on the right. You don't like it? And that's basically the way the situation would go. And finally, the Board of Peace will establish a monitoring and compliance review mechanism to ensure the plan's implementation and effectiveness over time. Who are these people? We don't know. Who are the independent observers? We don't know. Especially if it's being meted out by its leader, Donald Trump, who placed himself as the executor of this agreement, which they concocted and didn't consult any Palestinians. So brothers and sisters, what are we saying here? This is not a peace deal. This is a surrender deal. And they understand that Hamas cannot accept this. So then the question's got to go out. Then what's the point? Why are they doing this? It's because of this. World opinion has turned totally against Israel. They are losing all of their support. Even their lackeys in the governments, in the roles of presidents or prime ministers, have turned against them because they're concerned. They're saying, look, Tel Aviv, we want to see you successful, but you don't vote in our elections, and elections are coming up. And therefore, if we don't start seeing some type of movement or something like that, we're not going to get reelected. Or the people who are against you are going to be elected. So therefore, they had to come up with something to change popular opinion so that they can say, look, we put a peace proposal on the table. They didn't accept it. Bad Hamas, go lay down. That's basically what this is about. This is not a serious peace proposal, brothers and sisters. That's the reality of the situation. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Okay, I would love to take some questions, comments, and or concerns. Unfortunately, we won't be able to do that at this time due to time constraints. Jazakumullah khair. Please leave comments below, and we'd love to hear from you. I'm Bilal Abdul Kareem. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.